Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. Today I've got a monthly wrap-up video to share with you guys. I can't believe February's over already. January dragged on for like 3 months worth of time, and then February came and left so quickly. Anyway, I read 10 books in February, and I wanted to tell you guys about them. So we're just going to go in order that I read them in. And I'll give you my brief, review and my rating. So I started February off with Remember Me by Christopher Pike. I've been doing for the past year or so like a revisiting Christopher Pike series because he was such a instrumental part of my becoming a horror fan when I was a kid. And it's been really fun rereading some of these books. This one's about a young girl who, at the beginning of the book, we learn she's dead. So she's like a ghost telling us her story. And it's trying to figure out who murdered her. And I thought it was really interesting. The end gets a little silly, but I still had fun with it. And I believe I gave it, 4 stars. I went back and forth between 3 and 4, but I had fun. So we settled on 4, silly or not, at the end. Then after that, I read The Bane Witch by Ava Morgan. This one, I really liked this one. It's a witch story, as the title would have you imagine. And it's about this woman who she's kind of on the run from an abusive partner. And she remembers that, like, growing up, it was her and her mom. And it was a really toxic situation. Her mom's now gone, passed on. So the woman's on the run from an abusive partner. And she remembers from when she was little, an aunt visiting the house one time and telling her, like, if you ever need me, come find me. So that's what she's doing. She's hitting the road and she's going to find this aunt. And once she gets there, she learns a bit about her history and her family's history. And she learns that she's a witch, a Bane witch. And I found it very interesting. I loved getting to know these characters. And overall, I gave this one also 4 stars. Then after that, I read Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This was 5 stars. I'll tell you that right off the bat. This book is insane. It's insane. It's definitely not for everyone, but I loved it. It's about this man who, upon having a really bad feeling that something has happened to his parents, he goes to their house to investigate because for the past few months, his parents have been really being brainwashed by a right-wing conservative news network called Fox News. And like as the weeks have gone by, they've just gotten more and more brainwashed. And when he cannot get a hold of them, he gets really scared and he goes to try to find them. He finds them all right. Anyway, from there, it's this story. It shifts perspectives between this guy and his brother, and then his brother's family members, as they're all also being brainwashed, and it goes so off the rails. It's disgusting, it's funny, and it's a little too on the nose for what's going on down in America right now, maybe? So, that's all I'll say about that. Next up, I read Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. This was also a crazy one. This is, and I think it was also 5 stars, was it? It was 5 stars. This is about a woman who is in desperate need of money. She's lost her job. She's going to be evicted from her apartment. So she decides that she's going to check into a sugar daddy website. And she finds a man that she wants to work with. And he's got some very odd requests. And he ends up taking her captive in his home. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So it's about her time in there trying to do what he wants. He wants her to behave like an animal. And he won't let her leave. And so she's there for a long time, like 7 years. And it's about her time in there and her losing her humanity because she's being treated like an animal. And it was weird and it was moving. But again, it's not going to be for everyone. After that, I read 3 Little Lies by Daniel Stewart. This one is about a woman and her husband and their 2 kids, and they're getting a exchange student to come and stay at their home. And the husband's always gone. He's in and out of town for work, and it's this teenage girl comes to stay with them, and it kind of flips their whole life, their whole world upside down. And I don't want to say too much more than that because it would kind of give too much away. But if you love a good domestic thriller, I think you would like this one. I kind of saw where this one was going, but I still enjoyed the ride of getting there. And this one was a 3.5 star for me. But yeah, it was an interesting story. Oh, after that, I read for our members only book club. If you would like to join, please do. Once a month, usually the middle of the month, we do a live chat where we talk about the book that we've read. You can join by going to my channel, and you'll see like memberships, join. You can click that button. And there are 3 tiers, and 2 of the tiers give you access to the book club. And this month we read Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I was so interested to read this because I had watched the show Shadow and Bone on Netflix. And I knew that the characters from this were in that show. And I loved that show. Unfortunately, it got canceled, but when it was on, I loved it. And so I was excited to read their story. I will tell you, if you've seen Shadow and Bone, this whole book is in that series. Which was cool because since I'd already seen it, I could like picture everything so clearly with this book. And I really enjoyed it. This would be 4 stars for me. It's outside of my reading comfort zone. I don't read a lot of fantasy, but these characters are so fun, and I loved following them around. There's not a lot of plot to tell you about. Like, they're going on a mission, so there's a lot of planning and plotting and adventuring. And I love these characters. I love them. Like Kaz, love Kaz. Jesper, all of them, love them. 4 stars. I would recommend. Especially if you love fantasy, and it's a duology. There's 2 books in that one. After that, I read Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata. This one was 4 stars. I knew this one was going to be a lot because I read Earthlings last month. And I was like, So this one was less a lot than Earthlings. In the way, like, Earthlings I found so disturbing. This one gets really disturbing right at the end, but up until then it wasn't too bad. It's the story of like an alternate reality of Japan where the way families are created is different than how it is now. Instead of physically making the baby with your husband, you do artificial insemination because in a bid to sort of create the perfect family unit, they don't want to bring sex into the relationships. And it becomes looked at as almost like incest to be intimate with your husband because they want to keep these like strong bonds with none of the drama that can come with that. So like you can have boyfriend, girlfriend on the side. That's completely fine and encouraged, in fact. And I thought it was really interesting. 4 stars. It would have hit that 5 star for me if not for the last like 3 pages. That was... It took it too far for me, for my personal comfort zone. Next up, we have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This was the book that we did on my podcast this month. And I loved it. I love Grady. There's just something about the way he writes. It's so readable. You can get through his books so quickly. This takes place in 1970, and it takes place at a home for young girls, teenagers that have gotten pregnant, and their parents don't want them around anymore. They need somewhere to go and have this baby, and then the baby gets put up for adoption. And so we get to meet a bunch of these girls. I think there's like 5 or 6 that we get to know really, really well. And then you just get to spend time with them. And as time goes on, they meet a librarian who gives the main character, Fern, a book on witchcraft. And from there, it takes off. I've got a whole book talk on this one. I've got spoiler-free reviews for all the books that aren't out yet, but anyone I'm physically holding a copy of, there's a book talk for, and I get right into it. I loved this. 5 stars. Would recommend. Next up, I read The Thorns by Dawn Kurtagich. I hope I'm saying that last name right. This is about a woman. So it takes place in dual timelines. We've got like the present, and then we've got 25 years ago when she was in like middle school, and she went to a boarding school. And in the present day, we know there's something off with her. Like we know something happened. Like sometimes she has to use a wheelchair, sometimes she can just use crutches. When she goes to the salon to get her hair done, all the mirrors have to be covered. She can't have too many people around because it gives her really bad anxiety. So then when we're in the past, we know that she had this close friendship, kind of like frenemies. They were obsessed with each other, with this girl named Stacy, and they keep getting into like more and more dangerous type of situations. And so it's her reckoning with the past, reconnecting with Stacy, and we're just trying to figure out what happened. And I feel like those like old friends reconnected, returning to the place where it all went awry type of stories, which I do love. I would definitely recommend this one, and I gave it 4 stars. And finally, the one that I finished most recently, a couple of days ago, we got Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. I loved this. 5 stars. This is a coming-of-age werewolf story about a family that lives in America. They're constantly moving around the southern states because they're werewolves. At least the aunt and the uncle that this young boy lives with are. And let me tell you, these 3 characters, like the aunt, the uncle, and the boy, I love them all so much. So much. I've got such a place in my heart for those 3 characters. And I thought it was great. It's like Stephen Graham Jones does anytime he takes on a horror trope, he really makes it his own. And I loved that about this. I don't read, or I haven't read many werewolf stories, but this was incredible. Incredible. And I would definitely recommend. But yeah, it's like, there's not a ton of plot. It's a coming of age story, and it's told sort of in like snapshots of this kid's life. And I thought it was great. It was gruesome and beautiful in that way that Stephen Graham Jones always is. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me for tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what's the best book you read this month. And don't forget to join the members so you can be a part of the book club. This month in March, we're reading Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, and I've got high hopes for that one. I've heard a lot of good things, so you're not going to want to miss out. You're just not. So you go join, and then we will see ya in the live book talk. Bye, guys.